So look at that. Here we are, right at the nick of time. Yes, that reminds me of a little joke. Ha ha ha. What happens when a Yeki marries a Lubavitcher? You get a Mashiach who comes on time. Yes, that was a joke. Don't feel any responsibility to laugh. Okay, but I'm Yotzi. Joke. Okay, so this is the class about getting ready for gimel tamuz, which comes out Wednesday night, Thursday, the Yom of Histalchus, the yurtzeit of our Rebbe. So it's good that we have these days that the class here is just, hey, it's right here in the Holy Land. It's already Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, Lamed Sivan. Welcome, everybody. If a few more people want to put on your cameras, then we'll have more of that for bring an atmosphere. So Gimel Tammuz, we focus on our relationship with the Rebbe, major themes, major ideas, his kashrus connection. Yes. So Gimel Tammuz is an Eitz Ratzon. It's a special time, right? There's a story that Y.Y. Jacobson tells that in the late 60s, there was a Jewish activist who had the president's ear, and he had permission from the president in America to do a big Jewish project. And the Rebbe felt a better choice could have been made. The person decided to do a Holocaust museum. The Rebbe felt that this money would have been much better investment in Jewish education and other things that have had much more of an effect of reawakening the Jewish people. But okay, so it was an Eitz Ratzon that was squandered. At this time, Y.Y. Jacobson's parents had Yechidus with the Rebbe before they went to a dinner in Washington. His father was the editor of a Yiddish newspaper, and he met many prominent people in that capacity. So the Rebbe told them a story. He said that there was a Jew in the shtetl that had a lot of problems. He was poor, he didn't feel well, he had a lot of daughters he needed to marry off, and he had a terrible itch on his back that was in a position that was very hard to scratch. And one day an angel appears and says, make one wish. And suddenly that itch, make one wish, and the itch came out and he said, scratch my back. So this was squandering an Eitz Ratzon. So Gimel Tammuz is an Eitz Ratzon. We don't want to squander it. The Tanya teaches that there's an awesome hashboah on the yurtzeit of a tzaddik, that his whole life, this all, like all his avoda, it's an Eitz Ratzon. Okay, so I wanted to start making that point. Now, this week in Parshas Chukas is a strange story. And by the way, in 2 weeks, this is very exciting news for those carrying around two chayenos in Eretz Yisrael. We're going to catch up, because if we're going to catch up, it's so exciting catching up in 2 weeks with America. We'll all be doing the same parsha again, because they have a double parsha. And okay, so it's very exciting. Is it 1 week? It's very soon anyway. Yes, it's a little too mathematical. Trying to figure out if it's 1 week or 2 weeks, but you get the general idea. Okay, a strange story in Chukas. The Jewish people in the desert are attacked by venomous snakes. Moshe said to Hashem, what should we do? Hashem says, make a pole, make a copper snake, put the copper snake on top of the pole, and anyone who is bitten by a snake, let him look up to the top of the pole at the snake, and this person will live and be healed. And Moshe does it, and the bitten people who look at the snake are healed. Now you have to say, this is a strange story. Why do they need to look up at the copper snake to be healed, you might ask? The Mishnah asks, Hashem will heal them. Why the need for a copper snake? And it could cause an error, and people could think the copper snake is causing the healing. And it says in the Talmud that King Heskiyahu lived in the 6th century before the Common Era. He realized the people were starting to worship the copper snake instead of Hashem. And King Hiskiyahu took the copper snake and destroyed it. He didn't want people to make that mistake. So why do we need it in the first place, you might ask? The Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah, Parshas Chukas, suggests an answer to this question. Okay, so, and we know that all biblical stories capture timeless journeys in the human psyche. All halachas, this is why we like Hasidus, because it teaches the timeless journey in the human psyche. What does this all mean to us? It's not just a story. What does it mean to us? This snake, okay. So it's a mashal for our journeys and our challenges, this copper snake we're going to read about this week in Parshas Chukas. So, have we ever been bitten by poisonous snakes? Have we ever been bitten by harmful forces? Have we ever been abused? Have we ever been manipulated? Have we ever felt crushed? Can we expect more than damage control? What is the deeper meaning of suffering? Why do some people accept it with peace, and why are some other people demoralized? So one perspective to answer this question is, or these questions, is presented in the story of the snake. Hashem says, put the copper snake on a pole and look at it. Hashem is saying the key to healing is not always fleeing the cause of suffering, but gazing at it. Don't run from the snake, look at it. But the one qualification is you must look up at the snake on top of the pole and not gaze at a crawling snake below. Have to look up. The Austrian-British philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein he was asked, what is the function of philosophy? And he answered, the function of philosophy is to show the fly the way out of the fly bottle. The fly is trapped in the bottle. He's trying to get out. He bumps into the walls until he falls from exhaustion. The only direction the fly doesn't look is up to the sky. If it looked up, it would see a way out. So, that introduction. Every experience in life has two basic perspectives, the earthly perspective and two, from a higher vantage point, its meaning from Hashem's perspective, like Das Tachton, Das Elyon, these two perspectives on everything, every experience in life. So the earthly perspective is the pain we're feeling here below. And two is the Torah empowers us to look at the same snake, but look up. Look at the snake from a divine perspective. And we will see that within every crisis lies the possibility of deeper discovery. So the most painful and challenging events cause us to grow in the deepest ways. And we've all seen people know people that have been through very challenging events, and they have grown in the deepest ways. So it forces us to make choices. It forces me to ask, what am I here for? The questions come from instead of just being a surface, superficial question, it comes from the depths, and we can discover strength that we never knew we had, and clarity of purpose. Now, as soon as I see the word clarity, it reminds me of what we've been learning for weeks and weeks and months and years, that the circumstances of our life are from Hashem. They're the exact circumstances that our soul needs. Not only are they good, they're the best, and we need clarity to deal with the circumstances. So this is what a mashpia, a mentor, a therapist, a very good friend can give us, clarity, because Another person is more objective sometimes in seeing the best way, giving us clarity in dealing with the circumstances. So it's a great thing to have clarity. So for this, we must look upward. So again, every challenge can be looked at in two ways. From the earthly perspective, I can feel like it's breaking me. And the Torah perspective teaches, if Hashem is everywhere, there's meaning in everything. This was one of the fundamental teachings of the Rebbe. Hashem is everywhere, it says in the Zohar. So there's meaning in everything. So there's opportunity in every moment. Every moment has meaning. When I'm faced with a difficult challenge, I can tell this to myself, and of course we tell this to ourselves and not other people. With other people, we want to be there for them, empathize with them, bear our suffering. But for ourselves, okay, look upward and we might find healing. The venom might be a path to the cure. From the perspective of above, like every transgression is a potential for tshuva, a potential for rejuvenation. Oh, good, look at that. I transgressed. Another opportunity for tshuva. What a healthy Hasidic attitude, no? Mistakes are a new education. We learn new things. So that reminds me of another YY joke. The man with money meets the man with experience, and the man with experience goes off with the money, and the man with the money goes off with experience. Is that funny? No pressure. Okay. So to understand this further, there's a mysterious moment in Parshas Bereshis. Yaakov fights all night with a mystery man. Yaakov is injured. This man, this angel says, I must go. It's almost dawn. And Yaakov says, I will not let you go till you give me a bracha, till you bless me. Okay, so try to imagine this. We're fighting with someone in a dark alley all night. Finally, the guy wants to leave and you say, wait, I need a bracha. What does this mean? Is this how you bid farewell to someone trying to destroy us? Yaakov was teaching us the secret of Jewish resilience. Look at every crisis and say, I will not let go of you until you bless me. And us Jews have done this for 3,500 years. Every crisis was an opportunity. Interesting. I will not let you go until you bless me. For if not, what was the meaning? You know, it says in the Zohar, Leis atar panoi minei, there's no space devoid of Hashem. So there's no experience devoid of meaning. Isn't that an interesting idea? There's no experience devoid of meaning. And it has to become a catalyst for rebirth. So I know deep down, your entire objective was to elevate me, to allow me to emerge more blessed. This is really transforming. Okay, now for a story. Elie Wiesel, so we know his story. He was taken from Sighet to Auschwitz. Much of his family was murdered. After the war, he came to celebrate Simchas Torah with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe welcomed him. Elie Wiesel said, I'm a Vishnitz chassid, not Chabad. The Rebbe said, the important thing is to be a chassid. The Rebbe said to him, to Elie, it's nice of a chassid of Vishnitz to come and greet us in Lubavitch. Is this how they celebrate Simchas Torah in Vishnitz? Elie Wiesel said, we're in Lubavitch now. The Rebbe said, so do as we do in Lubavitch. Elie Wiesel said, what do you do? The Rebbe said, we say L'chaim. Elie Wiesel said, in Vishnitz too. The Rebbe filled his glass to the brim with vodka. The Rebbe said L'chaim. Elie Wiesel said, in Vishnitz, a chassid never drinks alone. The Rebbe said, nor in Lubavitch. And the Rebbe lifted his cup and they both downed their vodka. Then the Rebbe said, in Elie, in Vishnitz, is one ever enough? And Elie Wiesel said, in Vizhnitz, one is but a drop in the sea. The Rebbe said, in Lubavitch, also, it's time for a second l'chaim. Both glasses were again refilled. Both said l'chaim and again emptied their glasses. The Rebbe said, Eli, now you deserve a bracha. And the Rebbe was beaming with him with the joy of Simchas Torah. The Rebbe said to him, what do you want a bracha for? And Elie Wiesel wasn't sure what to ask. And the Rebbe said, may I bless you that you should be able to start over again. And Elie Wiesel said, yes, Rebbe. And the Rebbe blessed Elie Wiesel to begin his life again, because until then his heart and soul were still in Auschwitz, where 1.5 million Jewish children were gassed to death. Elie Wiesel described this in his book, Night. So he had told the Rebbe, I don't want to get married again. How can I bring children into such an evil world? And from this, after this Simchas Torah, Elie Wiesel started over. He created a family, and he became a spokesman of hope and Jewish pride. He married and had a son who was born a few weeks after Y.Y. Jacobson's birth, and Elie Wiesel was at Y.Y.'s bris, and Y.Y.'s parents were at Elie Wiesel's son Elisha's bris. And at the day of Elisha's bris, people sent gifts. And Elie Wiesel said the most moving gift came from 770. The Rebbe sent flowers representing the blessing of a blossoming life. Yay. So this is the power of Hashem's message to Moshe about the snake. And one of the Rebbe's great messages, every moment, look up, will glean a fresh perspective into reality that seems, the reality that seems to put us in shackles and enslave us. If we look up, we may find a perspective and courage to say, I will not let you go till you bless me. And we'll be able to start living all over again. L'chaim, l'chaim. Make a l'chaim on that one. So this idea, so we're preparing, we have this week, we want to prepare for Gimel Tamuz, Wednesday night, Thursday. So let's go over our lives. Let's get the brachas out from these traumatic experiences in life that was part of the circumstances that Hashem arranged for our soul. Let's ask them for brachas. Okay. Now for another Y.Y. Jacobson joke. 1962, a Russian immigrant arrives from Russia to Eretz Yisrael, and this was very rare that people got out in 1972, and a reporter comes to interview him and says, how was life in Russia? And the Oleh says, I couldn't complain, to tell you the truth. And the reporter says, how was Parnassa? I couldn't complain. How was the living conditions? I couldn't complain. How was life as a Jew? I couldn't complain. So why did you leave and come here? Here, I can complain. Isn't that it's a luxury to complain. I'm not encouraging complaining, of course, but that was a joke. Another joke. You can. It's hard to know whether to laugh or cry from these jokes, actually. You can do both. We spoke about laughing on one side of the heart and crying on the other. Okay, now here's a story. This is, I guess you could say this is a Gimel Tamuz story. The animals in the jungle decided to stage a competition. Who has the loudest, most resonating voice? How could they tell? They didn't have, these machines. So they made a deal with the alligators. There were rows of alligators in the river. And if you hear, they told the alligators, lift yourself from the water, and we'll see how many rows of alligators lift up. So every day, each animal had a chance to get up on the platform and perform their cantorial melodies. Some animals got 5 rows of alligators, some got 20. At the end, the lion roars, and 430 rows of alligators stand up in the water, and the lion, the king of the jungle, won. He got the trophy. Everyone went home, including the fox who had arranged it. Then a canary comes to the fox and said, I never got a turn. And the fox said, do you expect to win over the lion's roar? And the canary says, I may lose, but I want to know that I tried, rather than feeling like I never tried. The canary said, you said every animal will have a turn, and I didn't have a turn. So the fox summoned all the animals again and says, this canary wants a turn. And it's kind of like at the end of the dinner when you're about to go home and they say there's one more speaker. Okay. So the lion is sitting there with his trophy, and the canary gets up and flies up over the platform and starts singing, and this unbelievable resonance, and everyone can hear. And 500 rows of alligators lift their heads. The canary has won. The fox said to the lion, I apologize, Your Majesty. And he takes the trophy from the lion and hands it to the canary. So the fox on the way home said, how did you do it? But right is right, but how did you do it? And the canary said, I lifted myself up from the earth and began singing. And all the canaries in the jungle know the same song, and 100,000 canaries began to sing with me. And that overpowered the roar of the lion, the awesome roar of the lion. So we understand this is a mashal. So when we look at the Jewish people and the Jewish land, we prepare like, we look like a canary surrounded by lions' roars. What is our power? So our power is our love for each other, our unity and our oneness, because in truth, we are one soul. And if we sing with one voice, and it turns all the Jewish people into one voice and one soul, we can overcome the mighty forces. So you might say, what about those people? What about those people who have different opinions than us? So I've been very inspired by two stories on this subject. One, I heard at a Farbrengen for Activists for Gale Nye, and Ariel Groner spoke, and he said he and his friends go out when there's these left-wing demonstrations, and they talk to the people. And these are people you would never have a chance. They want to talk. They're out there in the street looking for someone to talk to. And he said, we never have a chance to speak to these people from Tel Aviv. And isn't this wonderful? Now we have a chance to speak with them. And I said also that our friend Hezi Denenbaum, who has his carpentry, he does his carpentry. He has his office, his studio, I should call it, is right on Melech George, on King George Street in Yerushalayim. It has a big glass window, and he sent me a few pictures. Going outside past the window, you see there's a lot of rainbow flags, and inside there's his brother Ashi and a couple of his friends putting on tefillin with all of these guys. And I was so inspired, not like me who says, I don't like people with different opinions. No. They were out there because we're all one soul, connecting with another Jew, connecting on a deeper level, giving another Jew a chance to do a mitzvah. So cool that there's people working on bringing unity, and we can do this in every conversation. What unites us is stronger than what divides us. Very inspiring. Remember that we're one soul. So this is one of the great teachings of the Rebbe, that if each of us must become a shliach of love and light and hope, we should all, the Rebbe empowers us all to be his shluchim, to be his emissaries. Each of us is empowered. And I think this word empowered is very important. It's not just a good idea. We're empowered to do it. We shouldn't feel, how can I talk to anyone? It's like, when I was saying that, I just thought of my friend Olivia Schwartz, who called one woman 76 times before she ever called back. I would have felt 3 times, that's enough. I don't want to bother her, but not Olivia. And now this woman not only is from, but has from grandchildren. So we can't feel, I don't want to bother anybody. We have to reach out to our fellow Jew. Each of us is a shliach. Each of us is empowered. And if there's, and also when there's negative energy between a person and us, we have the power to transcend it, at least our part of it. You know, we speak so much about thought management. We don't have to follow, even though it's a fascinating subject, why I don't like someone. I just don't have to put any energy into it. I don't have to go there. It's not good for my mental or physical health. Let that subject go. So just by our doing that in our own minds, regardless of what the other person is thinking, this brings love and unity in our corner of influence. Okay, and the Talmud said Hashem has not found a greater keli of bracha, a greater vessel of blessing for the Jewish people than shalom, than peace. Because the truth is we are one. We have one Torah, we have one Hashem, we're one people, l'chaim, l'chaim. And if this was alive for bringing, this would be the point where we would each turn to the person next to us and give them a bracha. So we should all be blessed in everything that we need in the power of gimel tamuz, l'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, let's see what else I want to share in my remaining moments. So gimel tamuz, let's talk about gimel tamuz itself. 29 years ago, the Rebbe had been in the hospital since Chav Zayin Adar. It was a very, very difficult time. The whole 2 years since the Rebbe's first stroke was a very, very difficult time. And I was living in the Crown Heights for 29 years, 20 years before Gimel Tamuz. So we were kind of spoiled, being able to see the Rebbe, daven with the Rebbe, be with the Rebbe on the holidays, celebrate Yom Kippur, celebrate Simchas Torah, celebrate life with the Rebbe. And then the Rebbe had a stroke. And people in Crown Heights, this was like the olden days, 29 years ago, before cell phones. We had beepers, so with a little screen where a few words could be typed. So if the Rebbe came out on the porch in 770, that people could come and at least get a glimpse of the Rebbe. And then Chav Zayin Adar in 94, the Rebbe had a second stroke and was in the hospital. So, but everyone had their beepers. And then the night around midnight, it was Parshas Korach going into Parshas Chukas. Around midnight, the beepers went off and said, say Tehillim. And then another 5 minutes, they went off and said, say more Tehillim. And then it said, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and everyone in Crown Heights got up and started walking to 770. And I mean, it seemed like it could be a good time for the Geula Shalema. I had a little tambourine in my pocket just in case, because there's a lot of reporters coming, and the women were on the outside porch of 770. Many people gathered together. And around maybe 3:00 in the morning, a Chevra Kadisha van pulls up, and a body wrapped in a talus is carried into the 770, into the Rebbe's room. And I don't know if you've ever had the experience, if you weren't, like a body is till it's prepared for burial. If a body is like in a house, in a room, the body is put on the floor with the feet facing the door, wrapped in a talus, and it was said everyone could have a chance to walk by the room. And the room was just flooded with light. I've never had such an experience. It was such a powerful experience walking by with the mace on the floor and this tremendous light. And then walking home and trying to figure out what exactly happened. What happened? What's happening? What's going on? And the next day, there was a levaya. And so now it's 29 years. So Gimel Tamuz will be 29 years. So Gimel Tamuz, so it first comes up in history when the sun stood still in the valley of Ayalon, so we could win the war. It was getting dark. We needed to win the war. The Nevi time of the Nevi'im. So that's Gimel Tammuz's first appearance in our consciousness. And then in 1927, the Frierdiker Rebbe, on Gimel Tammuz, he had a death sentence. He had been arrested on the 15th of Sivan. It was over 2 weeks. He was tortured. It was horrible. I mean, I can't even really read about it in the diary. It's just like too painful to read what they did to the Frierdiker Rebbe. But then there was a miracle. And instead of his getting the death penalty, he was exiled to Kostroma, another town deeper into Russia. So it was a huge, huge relief to the Hasidim. And then as we moved towards Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz, the Frierdiker Rebbe was freed. So the Rebbe would often bring on Gimel Tammuz. And now we have our Gimel Tammuz. Yes, so a few more ideas. I just want to share a couple of more minutes of ideas because we need to get ready again. For those who are here from the beginning, it's an Ace Rutzon. It's a special time. We don't want to squander this time. Okay. So the Rebbe had an unyielding belief that every person is empowered to be a leader. The Rebbe wanted to create leaders. The Rebbe wasn't interested in creating followers. He empowered us to be leaders because at our corner of the world, no one could be a leader as well as we can. And this was an unyielding belief of the Rebbe. Yes, so in 1990, when the Iron Curtain fell, almost a million Russian Jews came to Israel. And the Rebbe was very concerned how to accommodate them Jewishly in every way, but especially Jewishly. And a Rav from Ashkelon came to the Rebbe and said, the Russian Jews are not being absorbed. And this Rav suggested, I'll make a meeting of leaders and prominent Jews. And the Rebbe had a global vision. The Rebbe said to him, by the time you bring together all these leaders, much time will pass. You become the leader of the generation in Ashkelon now. You become the Gadol Hador in Ashkelon now and give the Russian Jews what they need. And he was empowered. He was able to go and do it. And the Rebbe wants to empower us to be leaders in our corner of the world. We know how to be a leader. We know the language and we know the people and we know the psychology. So each person is the Gadol Hador, each person is the leader in our corner, because no one else can inspire like us in our corner. And this is empowering. So let's see. I think this is really what I wanted to share. Bringing Jews together. So we have this time now between now and Wednesday night, Thursday to prepare for Gimel Tammuz. I mean, his kashrus is one of the names of the game, the connection of a soul, of a chassid to a Rebbe, to strengthen that. The Rebbe was very into us doing chitas, learning the chumash of the day, the chumash of the parsha with Rashi, learning the Tehillim as it's divided by the month, learning the Tanya as it's divided by the year, even if we just can do a line or two, even if, we don't have time to do all of it. But this is one of the ways the Rebbe suggested and how we can have his kashrus, how we can bind our soul to the Rebbe's soul. And, and it's interesting. It's all kinds of interesting things appear. And there's an idea from the Alter Rebbe to live with the times. That's why I'm very excited that in another week that we're going to be on the same page as the Jews in Chutz La'aretz. We'll be learning the same parsha again. So I was feeling very insecure while we were doing a different parsha. Yes. And that the Rebbe is with us now. Yes, that's an important note that I just got, that the Rebbe is with us now. And the Rebbe spoke so much about Mashiach coming, about bringing Mashiach, about the Geula Shalema. And we need it. People are suffering. And the idea that the Rebbe is with us now is very important. I'm glad, thank you for that message. It's available because there's different ways of there's not one way to connect with the Rebbe. There's people who is always going to the Ohel or sending. It's very easy now with modern technology. You can just Google Lubavitch Ohel and you can send an email which will be brought shortly and someone will place it. and tear it up by the Oha, our message. So that's one way, that's a traditional way. Other people feel they can write a letter or open one of the many books of the Rebbe's letters. And often, I mean, for us, we've often made big decisions in our life from letters that we got, very clear letters. That can be another way that people can connect with the Rebbe. And also I found sometimes in really thick situations, like just a picture of the Rebbe, just looking at a picture from the Rebbe, we can get answers. And I was at a Kinas Hashlukos a few years ago, and Rebbetzin Gorelick from Milano, she and her husband, like in the 50s, there was like no Jewish infrastructure. And as a young, newly married couple, they went to Italy, they went to Milan, and they created a Jewish revolution there. And she was speaking, and she spoke about how she has a picture of the Rebbe in her dining room, and when she has a question, she goes over and stands in front of the picture and asks her question. So I found all of these methods can work, but it's really a time, Rebbe is with us now. And that's what it says in Tanya, like Tzaddikim are more in this world. The chapter in letter 27, so the Alter Rebbe teaches Tzaddikim are more in this world after their nifta, because there's nothing blocking them and they can be everywhere. So Baruch Hashem, it's only Sunday night, Rosh Chodesh, the first day of Rosh Chodesh, the first night, and we have time to prepare for Gimel Tamuz. So I really want to thank everyone for coming. Let's take our get well picture for the Rav, for Rav Yitzhak Feivel ben Brian Malka, certainly one of the great leaders of our generation, one of the great living leaders. He should have a refuah shalema and have nachas from all of us. So if everyone could just put on a quick get well smile. Come on, a few more people. Don't be shy. Come as you are. No judgment. We're all gorgeous. Let's face it. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Great. So, Chodesh Tov. It should be only good news and blessings and the Geula Shalema. Thank you so much. It's so good for bringing all together. And we had such a great group tonight in honor of Gimel Tam. It's so good to see everybody. Look at all the nice people. Look at all the beautiful faces. I'm such a lucky girl. So thank you. To be continued next week. Emertz Hashem. Thank you, everybody. Really much love and looking forward to more of our for bringing together. Shalom, shalom. Chodesh Tov.